Hello, and welcome to PETA's Town Hall with PETA President Ingrid Newkirk, PETA Executive Vice President Tracy Reiman, and Joel Bartlett, PETA's Vice President of Marketing. I'm Ben Williamson, Senior International Media Director at PETA, and I'll be your co-host today. This meeting will discuss a few of PETA's many recent victories for animals, including a really huge one, as well as giving you an inside look at how PETA's marketing team inspires millions of caring people to help make victories like this one happen. If you have access to a computer, you can stream this meeting at peta.org/JanuaryTownHall. Once you log in, you can type in your question in the field at the bottom of your screen and listen to the town hall without using your telephone. If you're joining us on the phone, at any time during today's town hall, you can press 0 to ask a question. You'll speak with a PETA staff member who will record your question and then put you back into the meeting so you can listen until we're able to ask your question live later in the call. With so much happening in recent weeks, we're expecting a high volume of questions. And while we may not get to everyone on tonight's call, we will be following up and answering each one, even if we can't get to it live. And just while we wait for everyone we're calling to come online, a quick mention that at any time today's conversation, you can press 7 to make a much-needed and much-appreciated donation, or to renew your PETA membership for 2017. If you're joining us online, you can go to peta.org/donate to make a gift as well. For those of you just joining, welcome to PETA's Town Hall. My name is Ben Williamson. I'm PETA's Senior International Media Director, and I'm responsible for bringing worldwide attention to PETA's work. Ingrid, Tracy, and Joel will be on the line shortly. Ingrid and Tracy will discuss how decades of PETA campaigning has finally led to the announced shutdown of Ringling Brothers Circus, as well as the next steps you can take to help end the exploitation and abuse of animals for cruel, so-called entertainment. A little later in our call, you won't want to miss Joel's inside look at the many ways PETA's innovative online advocacy and social media work is spreading compassion throughout the globe. Ingrid, Tracy, and Joel will all be here answering your questions live on this call at the end of today's presentation as well. At any time, please press 0. You'll be queued up to talk to a staffer, and we're getting to everyone as fast as we can. And now, I'd like to turn it over to Ingrid.
Thank you, Ben. And hello to everyone who's joining us from coast to coast and possibly in boats at sea for our very first town hall of 2017. Let me extend a special welcome to those of you who are with us for the first time. I hope you'll find today's meeting informative and inspirational, and if not, you know where to complain. And I hope you'll join us again, and it won't be your last town hall, but your first of many. I'm joining you today from our offices in the Nancy Alexander Center for Animal Rights in Washington, D.C., where we are literally just a stone's throw from President Trump's Oval Office. And frankly, given the angry crowds we see going past the window and down the street, many of them demonstrating stone's throw may be an apt term in more ways than one. I have heard from a number of our supporters who are emailing in, who are very concerned about what this new administration's policies are going to mean for animals. And I must say no one really knows, but rather than guessing, I'm going to mention a few important things that we do know. For 36 years, PETA has been right here in the nation's capital working to stop taxpayer-funded cruelty to animals. And in the last year alone, as you may well already know, we've rather miraculously, although it's taken a lot of elbow grease and hard work, we've rather miraculously helped end more than 3 decades of hideous maternal deprivation experiments on baby monkeys that were conducted by the National Institutes of Health. We've also worked with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. It has to be that way to secure passage of a groundbreaking new law that will dramatically reduce the use of animals in painful chemical toxicity tests. And we are up on the Hill, walking the halls, as we were when we pressured the government to agree to release hundreds of chimpanzees that were being used in NIH experiments. We got them retired, got them out of metal cages and into real sanctuaries. It was a real group effort, and it paid off. But it did require us being up there with Congress. Everybody knows that just as they don't start wars or claim any particular nationality or religion, people know that animals don't belong to any political party either. So, as we point out, animal rights is a non-partisan issue. And the importance of getting laws passed to protect animals doesn't change when the occupant of the Oval Office changes, which is why the day before last week's inauguration on January the 19th, we invited people from all across the political spectrum to come together for a special party. We called it the Party for Animals, or the Animals Party, in Washington at the Willard Hotel. It's called the Hotel of Presidents. And we did it to celebrate all that members of Congress have already accomplished for animals, and, of course, to encourage them to do much more, whether, as we said on the invitation, they are conservative, liberal, green, tea, or something else. Animals don't care what they are as long as they vote the right way to protect them. And I think that's the attitude that we have to have, no matter what side anybody is on. I'm quite pleased to report that animals do have some phenomenally wonderful, compassionate allies in both main political parties. These are people who are working on everything from ending the importation of dog leather from China, the stuff we exposed that our undercover footage showed, ends up in gloves and in belts in the U.S., leather from dogs from China, and to stopping deadly military trauma training exercises on animals, things that can easily be replaced with computer simulators. And that's we have already replaced those with computer simulators in almost a dozen countries. And we want to do it here throughout our own U.S. military. But the topic most discussed at the Animals Party had nothing to do with politics, really. Everybody was so excited. We were all celebrating the news that had just broken days earlier that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Wretched Circus would be ending 146 years of animal suffering when it shuts down this May. So glasses of America's first cocktail, the Sazerac, who knew, were raised around the room and everybody cheered, and there was just thunderous applause.
Yeah, it's been 10 days since I first heard the news that Ringling was at long last calling it quits, and I have to say I'm still a bit in shock that it's finally happened. I'd always known that they'd had no future as long as they continued to abuse animals, but I wasn't expecting that news to happen less than a year after they stopped dragging exploited elephants across the country. Well, yes, I think we were all surprised and pleased with the announcement, but we knew it was coming sooner or later. While we put the writing on the wall for Ringling way back in 1980, which is when we first declared against them in the year of our inception, we were just so thrilled that it had finally happened, because since our very beginning, PETA has always said that we would be, and we were, Ringling's most vocal opponent. We were their absolute nemesis. If people don't know this, PETA filed formal complaints about many things to do with Ringling. One was about the death of Kenny. Some of you will remember Kenny was a 3-year-old baby elephant who Ringling forced to perform in 2 shows. They prodded him out into the ring, despite the fact that he was very, very ill. And Kenny actually died shortly after he was being led into the ring for the 3rd time. He just laid down and died. Then we filed complaints about a baby elephant named Benjamin. He became a victim of Ringling because he drowned. He was being trained, and he ran away from his trainer, went into a pool,
His mother would ordinarily have got him out, and the trainer, though, had been poking him with a bullhook, and he ran away and drowned in the pool. So we pressed the USDA to take action on those cases, and they didn't. It actually took us 8 years to get the Office of the General Counsel at USDA to do anything at all. And in fact, the old chief attorney there was hired by Ringling as soon as he retired. But by the time we'd done that, we had amassed such a string of serious complaints. One had to do with a lion, Clyde, who died when Ringling was crossing the Mojave Desert because Ringling didn't bother to fix the fan in the boxcar that he was kept in, and Clyde baked to death. That's what happened. And then they lied about his death to the USDA, but PETA managed to unearth the truth and put it on the table. But when the USDA finally acted on our complaints, they fined Ringling, and as you may recall, it was the biggest fine in circus history. It was $250,000, more than that. But still, they kept going, and we had to keep going, campaigning like the Dickens against them. A breakthrough came when we had a whistleblower who actually he'd been working for Ringling for years, and he came down with cancer. He was dying of cancer. And his wife somehow persuaded him to do the right thing before he passed away. So he had actual photographs of the very cruel ways that Ringling's trainers broke the baby elephant's will. They would drag them from their mother's side and force them to stand on a concrete floor, chained up for as much as 23 hours a day for 6 months or longer. And the babies were then trained by being held down with ropes so tightly that they suffered from some deep cuts. Those photographs that were passed over to us by the whistleblower were, in my view, the blackfish for Ringling, because we had them blown up and we stood outside every single Ringling show holding them aloft. And when people saw them, they would just turn around and go home. People actually tore up their tickets, and people cried and asked us questions. So attendance was on the downswing from the moment that happened, and probably before. But there's much more, and with the help of eyewitnesses and citizens who happened to wander around the back, we captured tons of photographs and hours of video of Ringling employees beating and jabbing the elephants with bullhooks. And we showed how Ringling used a thing called magic dust, which is a gray paint that they would put on the elephants to hide the bleeding wounds. Just incredible stuff. We also sent veterinarians along to the shows to catalog things like the tigers and the other big cats pacing in these tiny transport cages for hours, just going around and around, and then in the ring, flinching in absolute fear when they heard the crack of the whip. So I remember one of our animal behaviorists not that long ago wrote a report about big cats being held outside by Ringling during blistering summer heat in the south or the southwest with not a scrap of shade. We were there the night that Sabre was a horse who had chronic asthma, should never have been used, even if you think using any animal is right. Sabre collapsed and she died right on the street outside PETA's Norfolk, Virginia headquarters, which was fortuitous, when Ringling was bringing the animals through on the march to the stadium. And after that, you could barely find an animal march anymore. So in the end, we had documented more than 150 citations for violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act. And we had changed so many opinions by showing the press and the public the abject misery that those animals held captive by Ringling endured every single day, every night. So I'm really very happy because our campaign helped make people see a different side to the promotions the big fanfare and the colorful posters and the stupid costumes. And I must say that the news of their closing is a truly powerful reminder that you realize that children are now going to be growing up in a little while, that children will never, ever have been told that a trip to the animal circus is some sort of treat. So I do think the days of abusing animals for cruel entertainment, and in that I'm not just saying land circuses, but the watery ones like SeaWorld, I think they're absolutely numbered if we keep pushing hard. Right, Ben?
Yes, absolutely, Ingrid. And we're going to be talking more about how exactly that Ringling victory came about in a moment. And I just wanted to remind everybody, we're getting some great questions from listeners about this victory and about PETA's plans for 2017 that we'll answer a little later in the meeting. But if you'd like to ask your own questions about Ringling or any area of PETA's work, please press 0 on your phone at any time during the town hall. A PETA representative will record your question. You'll be queued up to speak to a staffer, and we'll get to everyone as soon as we can. They'll record your question and then put you back into the meeting to continue listening, so you won't miss a thing. Also remember that you can support all of the work that we're discussing here today and help us accomplish even more for animals during the year to come by pressing 7 on your phone and making a generous gift of support, and we really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. And may I say, Ben's done a wonderful job. He's placed many riveting stories about Ringling in the international press and ruined their day and helped open people's eyes. By the way, we are already getting, I'm told, lots of calls from people asking, where will the elephants and the other animals go? No one really knows. There are overtures being made to the circus by sanctuaries to try to take some of them in. They've got that wretched so-called conservation center. They are doing a little cancer research on some of the elephants. We don't think it's terribly invasive, thank God, but they are doing some of that. We're not pleased at all. We've managed to place stories. Ben has helped with that to show people it's not a conservation center. They say they want to start some sort of zoo there, but I don't think they can. They're not equipped for it. So we don't know. Ringling says that they want to find homes as good as the one that they have always known. And we can only hope that wherever they go, it'll be far better than what they saw at Ringling. We've got our ear to the ground. We are trying to figure that out. But at the moment, I think the key is to close down all the other circuses. Joining our call now is PETA Executive Vice President Tracy Reiman. She's been with us for 25 years. Many of you know her. And if you look through the photos and the press clippings from those old PETA Ringling Brothers demonstrations, even back in the 90s, you'll find her there, including my favorite picture of her with her newborn baby, Jack, who is now, I think, a teenager. So today, Tracy's responsible for leading PETA's corporate affairs, our online marketing, our youth divisions, and PETA's entire campaigns department. So she's not bored. For years, she's been a driving force behind PETA's campaigns against Ringling, and today she's spearheading our work to get SeaWorld to release the animals they hold captive and send them to ocean sanctuaries. Tracy.
Thank you, Ingrid, and hello, everyone. If you've read some of the many, many articles that have come out since news of Ringling's announcement broke, you'll find circus executives giving all sorts of excuses for why they're shutting down, from operating costs being too high to claims that the attention spans of children are too short. Though the reality is that most kids now view animal circuses as the horror shows that they truly are. So while they confess that their ticket sales have been down, what they're more hesitant to admit, although they really have to and do, is that decades of determined campaigning by PETA and our supporters is a large part of why that's happened. Though Ringling's decision to shut down may have seemed sudden, it comes after years of relentlessly ensuring that every single person thinking of attending one of their performances knew exactly the kind of cruelty and abuse their ticket purchase would be supporting. In recent years, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single Ringling show where someone wasn't handing out PETA leaflets to parents and PETA stickers and coloring books to their kids. And while it once may have taken something as dramatic as dumping 2 tons of manure in front of Ringling's headquarters, or sitting in a cage painted like a tiger to convince media outlets to report on their cruelty rather than running a puff piece about their latest gimmick to sell tickets, reports of demonstrations against Ringling and the circus' latest USDA violations have become much more the norm. In the 90s, Ringling still had major corporate sponsors like Sears, MasterCard, even Ford Motor Company to help line their pockets. Through our persistent campaigns, every single partnership Ringling had with companies abruptly ended years ago, and they haven't seen a major national sponsor since. When I started at PETA, it was usually a packed house. But as the years went by, more and more often, Ringling found themselves forced to give away many of their tickets to schools, groups, or to anyone, frankly, who would take them. This has been one of PETA's most relentless and tireless campaigns. We've pulled out all the stops, from undercover investigations, eye-catching advertisements. We created heartbreaking videos. We enlisted celebrity support. We even have a giant robotic elephant who moves her head and trunk and even blinks her eyes and is voiced by Priyanka Chopra of the hit TV show Quantico. Our Ellie has been touring the country mesmerizing school kids. All that and our thousands, and I mean thousands, of demonstrations have finally forced Ringling to consign itself to the dustbin of history where it belongs. Happily, that day is now just a few months away.
Thank you, Tracy. I love the phrase dustbin of history. That's where we want all the animal abusers we campaign against to go. That
Absolutely.
Ellie the elephant, she's on our website if you want to see her. She really is. The children hug her and love her, and she has personally, if you can say that about a robot, she has personally visited and met with 30,000 children in the last year alone, so it's fabulous. But one other clear example of how dramatic a shift we've seen in attitudes about animal circuses is on the legislative side of things. Back to Washington we go. In 1995, Newt Gingrich, remember him? Name that came up recently again. Newt Gingrich helped Ringling bring a very sad parade of, I think it was 14 captive elephants in their shackles and what have you to Capitol Hill. This was for a 125th anniversary event with members of Congress. And there was big hoopla because Ringling made Newt an honorary ringmaster. And that's what was in the press. PETA protesters were outside, of course, and we were all busy being arrested during the Ringling event. And that moved one senator, bless his heart, to give a really impassioned plea for elephants from the Senate floor. But despite all that, much of the coverage from that day focused, as it often doesn't anymore, focused on the spectacle of Ringling, not the abuse that we were there to expose. So fast forward to today, and thanks to the calls and the emails and the letters to councils from our members and to the testimony of our really terrific experts, and the many times we have thumped that bullhook down on the table so that legislators could touch it and feel it. It happens that many cities and even the entire states of California and Rhode Island now have laws on the books banning the use of bullhooks. And what that means is if they can't use the bullhook, they can't bring elephants to town. It's that simple. They cannot control them. The elephants see that bullhook, and that's why they stay in line. That's what they're afraid of. That's the only way that circus trainers can control them. Back to you, Tracy.
Well, it may have taken decades of work to get where we are today, but with each passing day, it seems like progress in our work to get animals out of cruel entertainment is accelerating. When Ringling first announced that they were taking elephants out of their shows in March of 2015, they'd said they'd phase them out by 2018. By May of last year, the elephants were off the road. Rather than let up, in a very true PETA way and a unique PETA way, we upped the ante and turned our attention to the plight of tigers they held captive. Now, less than a year after that move, Ringling executives have learned that dropping elephants while keeping tigers and other captive animals in their shows wasn't nearly enough to offset years of relentless protests and complaints of animal abuse. And while Ringling Brothers may finally be calling it quits, and we continue to push for circuses like Universal to go animal-free, the pressure is building for marine amusement parks like SeaWorld and the Miami Seaquarium to stop exploiting the orcas, dolphins, and other animals they hold captive. We want them out of there and into protected sea sanctuaries rather than tiny concrete tanks. Much like Ringling, SeaWorld's ticket sales have tanked, its stock price has plummeted, and it has laid off hundreds and hundreds of workers. Meanwhile, PETA has convinced dozens of big companies, including Southwest Airlines, Hyundai, Mattel, even Taco Bell, to end their partnerships with SeaWorld. And our work, including a shareholder resolution, many demonstrations, rushing even the Rose Parade float that they were silly enough to have, and filing innovative lawsuits and other legal work, this led to SeaWorld's announcement that it would stop breeding orcas. And, of course, this will spare future generations of orcas the misery of captivity. It doesn't do anything to improve the lives of the 22 orcas still suffering at SeaWorld, including one who has not even been born yet and will be born soon. So we continue to push SeaWorld to retire the orcas and all the animals at its parks to seaside sanctuaries. Just last summer, some good news. The National Aquarium announced that it will relocate all 8 of its dolphins to seaside sanctuaries, including one who was born at SeaWorld, something that they should follow suit. And SeaWorld has announced that a new park in Abu Dhabi, set to open in 2022, will be its first without orcas, something we have worked hard behind the scenes to ensure, even enlisting the support of a member of the Saudi royal family and running ads in the UAE. We're now also pushing to ensure that they have no animals at all.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for that summary. It's really, really exciting stuff. Just before we bring in Joel, I just wanted to remind everyone on the phone that you can press 7 at any time to renew your PETA membership and support all of PETA's work for animals. And you can also visit PETA.org/donate to make a generous gift, or indeed to renew your PETA membership and help us do even more for animals in 2017. And we're getting some fantastic questions, but there's still time. If you press 0, you can ask a question, and we'll be answering them a little later in the town hall. So, joining us now for his first ever telephone town hall is PETA Vice President of Marketing, Joel Bartlett. From PETA's websites and emails to our massively popular presence on social media, Joel sees it all through. His clever leadership means that PETA has become the single most engaged with advocacy organization on Facebook and Twitter. And by the way, that's not just animal advocacy, but all advocacy. We are the most engaged with advocacy organization on those platforms. And he's also the brain behind those incredibly popular and informative PETA games like Super Chick Sisters and Kitten Squad. Kitten Squad, by the way, has been downloaded nearly 1 million times between PlayStations, iPhones, Androids, and PCs. So Joel's going to tell us a little bit about how his team is changing the perception of animals for millions online and helping PETA to win important victories for animals as a result. Joel, on to you.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate the chance to talk about PETA's online programs, particularly after that incredible Ringling Brothers announcement less than 2 weeks ago. Back in 2003, the polling firm Gallup reported that 25% of Americans believe animals should be given the same rights as people. When that same survey was conducted again in 2015, the number rose to nearly a third. So, what made so many more Americans agree on the importance of animal rights in just a few times? As you might have guessed, And as Galp specifically mentioned, it's PETA. The spread of compassion for animals has been unprecedented in recent years, and I know firsthand that our innovative online marketing strategies have played the most significant role in making that happen. The explosive growth of social media in the last decade has also led to a dramatic increase in the number of people we're reaching, engaging with, and cultivating to become committed animal rights advocates like all of you. Ringling's announcement came on a Saturday evening, and within minutes of that announcement, PETA had shared the news with millions through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website. That's because our marketing team, just like PETA's caseworkers who respond to reports of animal cruelty, are online 24/7, constantly raising awareness about animal issues and helping caring people take action. I know that to some of you, online marketing may seem like a blur of statistics, but I want to share a few results that really show the power behind the numbers and a rapidly growing passion for our work. I really believe that this is how we are changing the world for animals. In 2016, PETA videos were watched more than 1.3 billion times. That's, again, 1.3 billion video views to PETA's videos. That's more than doubling our total video views from just the year prior. And to give you just a little bit more idea of how important online videos have become to our work for animals, back in 2011, we had 2 million video views total for the entire year. Just 5 years later, we're topping that year-long total number almost every single day. It's hard to call that kind of growth and awareness anything but phenomenal. It's also worth remembering that those 1.3 billion video views aren't just some passive statistic like the attendance numbers at a hockey game. Nearly every PETA video that we put up online, from the eyewitness footage captured during our Angora rabbit farm investigation to a behind-the-scenes look at our latest celebrity campaign, like Kate Del Castillo's news conference against SeaWorld, they all include a clear way for people to take action for animals. Actually, a great example of the power of PETA videos happened just last week. I'm sure most of you have heard about or seen the shocking clip of a terrified dog being forced into rough water on the set of the film A Dog's Purpose. Well, just one day after that footage became public, our video team created a side-by-side video that shows the difference between what people think they're seeing animals do on screen and the abuse that happens behind the scenes, just kind of contrasting those two things, showing the expectation and then the reality. In less than 48 hours, our video had received more than 6.5 million video views online, and it's already been shared by more than 130,000 people through Facebook and Twitter alone. Our call to boycott the film is spreading like wildfire, too, with thousands using the Boycott a Dog's Purpose hashtag on Twitter and Instagram right now. And some movie theaters are canceling their shows and actually refunding money to patrons.
Yes, and Joel, I'd just like to jump in quickly on that if I could. If you haven't seen that disturbing video yet, it's on the front of our website right now, and you really do need to watch it. PETA has already heard from more than 1,000 people in dozens of cities across the U.S. requesting materials to help organize local boycott demonstrations during the opening of A Dog's Purpose this weekend. And so if anyone on the line would like to organize a demonstration in your own community, please at the end, leave a voicemail message at the end of this call, or now you can press 0 or indeed at any time and tell a PETA representative about your interest in doing so. It would be really great to get a lot of people out this weekend. And just a reminder that by pressing 0, or for those of you who are joining us online, you can complete the question field at the bottom of your browser window. You can ask a question about any of PETA's work, and Ingrid and Tracy and Joel will all be on at the end of the call to answer that question.
Thank you, Ben. Now, I don't think I need to tell anyone here about how social media, and Facebook in particular, has just taken over the online world in recent years. But no organization, animal or otherwise, has embraced that takeover with the same tenacity as PETA. As Ben mentioned, we've been recognized as the most engaged with advocacy organization on social media, regardless of cause or focus. So that means more individuals are seeing and sharing and engaging with PETA's online content than any other advocacy organization in the world. So without dwelling too much on the numbers, last year our tweets were seen more than 560 million times, and our posts to our Facebook pages were seen nearly 8.8 billion times, and that's a whopping increase of almost 2.5 billion impressions from just a year before. Now, I've already touched on a lot of the reasons for that social media success, but for our social media strategy, we've also focused on being quick, aggressive, and to have emotional appeal. We're always using the latest news, like when Justin Bieber wore a hideous fur coat as a bizarre fashion statement in December, to grab people's attention. And with a single tweet last year, we were able to change the conversation after Harambe the gorilla was killed. Almost instantly, comments online went from blaming the mom or the zoo to really questioning why Harambe and other wild animals are behind bars in the first place. Most of the items we share through social media have some type of call to action, be it to try a vegan recipe, ditching wool, leather, and feathers from wardrobes, or as often the case, pointing people to one of PETA's many online action alerts, those web pages asking our supporters to contact a company, official, or individual to stop doing something that's harmful to animals. These alerts touch on all of PETA's work, from asking a company like AAA to end their partnership with SeaWorld, to asking members of Congress to support legislation like the Best Practices Act, a bill that would end archaic military trauma training exercises on goats and pigs and replace them with more effective, high-tech human simulators.
One important accomplishment by Joel's team is PETA's rapidly expanding mobile advocacy program. We saw nearly 3 times as many people respond to alerts through their phones in 2016 than we did in the year before, and that progress has no signs of letting up. Much of our success comes because we've made responding to action alerts super easy. I'm sure many of you on today's town hall are receiving PETA's text messages on your phone. A simple reply of the letter Y to a message will send an email on your behalf that goes to an actual email address targeted by our action alert. If you haven't signed up to receive our mobile alerts as a first responder, as we call those folks, it's as easy as entering your email address, zip code, and phone number on the front page of PETA.org. You will love it, I promise. So go do it right now. PETA Mobile Action Alerts, together with our popular advocacy-focused iPhone app, put the power to help animals in the palm of your hand. These innovative tools are part of why PETA is recognized as a leader in the field of mobile marketing and have led us to win 2 prestigious awards for our program in just the past 2 years, including a Mobile Marketing Association Smarties Award, which is sometimes called the Oscar of mobile marketing.
Thank you, Tracy. All of the marketing work we're describing during this town hall is making a tremendous difference for animals. Between our website, email alerts, social media, and our mobile program, we've grown the number of actions taken online from about 200,000 each month to well more than 1 million a month in just the past 5 years. PETA's marketing savvy is helping to ensure that animal rights are always front and center in conversations, and nowhere can that be seen better than in the number of victories for animals we're helping made possible. Last year, we had 56 great victories that were a direct result of PETA's action and email alerts. That's 27% more than 2015. These included persuading chic French fashion brand the Couples to ditch fur and canceling a Kansas business school's thoughtless plans to auction off a puppy. I know that I've mentioned a lot of numbers during today's town hall, but that's because we're seeing tangible changes through our online activism and achieving new victories for animals almost every single week.
Thank you, Joel, for You really shared with us some much exciting news about how your team's helping to make animal rights the social movement in the 21st century. It's really exciting. Thank you so much. And I'd just like to remind everybody, from all of the vital work for animals that we're discussing today, from our victory against Ringling Brothers to our innovative use of online activism, this happens only because of the compassion and generosity of caring PETA donors. Your support truly does power everything that we do for animals, and we couldn't do it without you. So to renew your membership, please press 7 on your phone right now, or you can log on to PETA.org/donate if you're joining us online, and help us accomplish even more in 2017. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. We've talked about historic progress that PETA has made during the last year with the help of our wonderful supporters, and Ben just said it all. It's the crux of it. I say it every time, it's true. None of the work that we've discussed or that we do would ever be possible without people who, just as we do, want to stop the horrors that are inherent in exploiting animals for entertainment, food, clothing, and laboratories, the whole gamut. So please never, ever feel powerless, never, ever underestimate your role in making good things happen for animals. You are the lifeblood of our organization, and I truly hope you'll help us grow our vital work, make it even bigger, and help us inspire even more people to switch from cruel to kind. So to do that, as Ben said, please press 7 on your phone, or for those following online, just go to PETA.org/donate to make a gift or even to renew your annual PETA membership, and we would be most grateful. I know it's an ambitious goal to win animal rights, but I do think with all of us working on it, we can do it, and certainly we can start by making 2017 a huge year for animal rights. Now, we want to get to your questions, so before we do, let me ask you, please stay with us on the line, because at the end of the call, we would like to hear from you as to any ideas and any plans you might personally have to help animals in 2017. We like those ideas. We get a lot out of them, and often we adopt them as our own, and so you see your ideas magnified. So thanks a lot for everything, and it's time for questions.
It is indeed. Thank you, Ingrid. So we've got a few questions lined up. First, we're going to go to Barbara in Selbyville, Delaware, who has a small circus question. Barbara, are you there? Hello, Barbara?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can indeed. What's your question, Barbara?
Now that Ringling has decided to eliminate animals, any and all animals from its circus, what will become of the animals in the smaller, such as Carson and Barnes or Universal Soul? They still have animals performing, being held captive. How are they going to be freed? How will you enable those animals to go to freedom?
I think I can take that one. Yes. Hi, Barbara. Thank you for the question. In fact, we have had several meetings in the last few days to figure that out exactly. And what we're going to do is what we always do, up the ante. We're going to start pursuing Universal and Carson and Barnes and the Shrine Circus and all these others relentlessly, because we know already from just what's been happening with those circuses in the last year that they're struggling. And so we know that if we can pursue them with the same vigor that we have been pursuing Ringling Brothers for all these years, that will only be a matter of time. But we really need all of you. Being able to relentlessly pursue these circuses requires activists all over the country. Most of these circuses, aside from perhaps Universal, are showing up in small towns without much notice for only a day or two. And it's really, we're constantly just finding out about these things and reaching out to people. So if anybody wants to help and you're not already on our activist network, please go to our website and sign up. It's at PETA.org, the action team. We need your help.
And I should say, and let me just add, it's not that we haven't been going after these circuses, we have, but we made wrangling our priority, and of course that paid off. We never missed a single show. But there's also litigation now against Universal, one of our members who is suing them for saying that they took care of their animals properly and then finding out that they didn't. And so there's all sorts of stuff going on. But as Tracy says, we need you.
And one more thing too is, we have action alerts all the time. As I said, we have a very vigorous campaign against Universal Circus already. And there's always an action alert that you can participate in if you go to the website, or you can just type in circuses.com. It goes directly to our page that lists things like that. We're adding things like that all the time. Those really help. It's encouraging the venues not to allow these circuses to show up in their parking lots. Or you can write directly to the circus and say, please, Universal has one of the most wonderful circuses, minus the animals. They could do a wonderful show without any animals, and it would be very successful. So definitely go to our website and look for those action alerts and participate, because those really do a great deal toward seeing these circuses go away.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, Ingrid and Barbara, certainly for your question. Next on the line we have Heidi in New York, who's been waiting patiently with a social media question. Heidi, are you there?
Yes, hello. First, I just wanted to thank PETA for all the work you do, and also on a personal level for inspiring me as a young person to be very involved in advocacy on every level. I'm now older, and I found you guys before the internet, I think, even existed. But I know that you have a huge social media presence, and your Facebook presence is the biggest I know of, at least. And I just wondered, more in a general, like, grassroots advocacy activist in a way, how do you see Facebook and social media as guiding us towards the future? I mean, I know this is kind of a general maybe question, but what do you think is going to happen? Are there new cool things coming up? Or?
Joel, would you like to take Heidi's question?
Yeah, Heidi, thank you. I think that nothing has been better for animal rights than social media. I'm a bit biased because it's the area that I work on, but I think that all of the changes that we're seeing for animals are being fueled by having the information about how animals are treated so much more readily available to people. So I think that social media is wonderful. It puts the power in your hands. It is so easy for you to share our content with all of your contacts, all of your friends. So when we post an undercover investigation, we're able to, thanks to people like you who are sharing the videos, we're able to reach millions of people. So I highly recommend everyone, please do connect with us on social media, and please share our content with your friends and family so that we can keep reaching more people. And I think that the progress we're seeing will continue to happen at increasingly faster rates.
Thank you, Joel. And thank you, Heidi, for your question. And thank you for your comments about PETA. It's really always lovely to hear things like that from our supporters. Next on the line, we have Joan in Horn Lake, Mississippi, who has a question about working to get others involved. Joan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go for it, Joan. What's your question?
Well, I just wanted to know, how do you respond to people, or how would you tell me to respond to people when they're seeing different things, these commercials on TV where you're seeing the dogs in the cage. I know this is the Humane Society that's putting out these commercials, but it still goes to the same problem, and they tell me they can't watch it because it's simply too cruel. I mean, so it's like they're closing their eyes to it because it's because it's cruel, and that's not going to help anything. So what do you say to people like that?
Well, I think there's so many things you can do to bring them along. Of course, we all know that when people don't want to see something, like how you get, dog leather made into gloves, as we spoke about earlier, or they don't want to see where milk comes from and the mother cow being separated from the calf. They just turn away and they say, "Oh, I'm too sensitive to look at it," but they don't change their habits. So Joel's group particularly has come up with, I'll let him perhaps tell you some of them, we come up with somehow amusing things that you can show people, but that also make the point, or beautiful things that also make the point. And we have helpful things in Tracy's department, like vegan recipes. And we ask people, if you're trying to make somebody vegan, for example, nothing beats cooking for them or giving them something to eat so that they try it and they like it and then they want to have it again. But there are many different ways to approach the conversation. And we talk about, if it's a baby shower or it's a birthday party, taking cruelty-free cosmetics or something like that. So it just keeps them thinking and showing them an article that isn't gory. But Joel, do you have any examples perhaps of amusing or lovely videos, or maybe Tracy does?
Yeah, we have videos in all types. So in addition to footage of action animals, we have cartoon videos, or one popular video series that we've had is called Draw My Life, where it's someone writing on a whiteboard the story of an animal. So we've done it for the life of an orca at SeaWorld, and it's just sort of like an animated on a whiteboard telling the story. And we've also done it for the life of a cow on a dairy farm. So that's a way where people can hear the information in a really powerful way, but there's no graphic footage or anything that you would need to turn your eyes away from.
Yeah, I remember you did the one for the elephant's life with the mother elephant and her baby, which was beautifully moving, got the message across perfectly, and yet there's, no gore, as you say, at all. So I hope that helps you, Joan.
Thank you, Joel and Ingrid. We had an online question next from Mary Ellen in Sarasota, Florida, who said, "I know it's early, but are there any areas you think will see progress for animals within the new administration and Congress during the next year?" Ingrid, have you got your political hat on?
Well, yes, there are areas. Let me mention the number one area. There's an act called the Best Practices Act, BEST, Best Practices. And this is an act that would stop the military's use of live dogs, live pigs, live goats in their training exercises. There's absolutely no excuse in 2017 and for years earlier for anyone to have done this, because there are these fabulous simulators. You can put a simulated soldier, all computer operated, on a table, and you can hack off his legs and you can shoot him and you can do anything, and he will bleed, he will vomit, his heart will stop, you can resuscitate him, and if you mess up, then you can reprogram him and start again. These simulators are phenomenal, and so we must get the Best Practices Act passed through Congress. Before the last session ended, I think we had 98 co-sponsors. Now we have to get more on board. We need many more. And just having the Best Practices Act pushes the Department of Defense to realize that Congress is breathing down their neck. So if you can, please everybody, and tell your friends, your family, find out which representatives need to sign on to this act, and then let them know you're a constituent and that's what you want. There are also a few other bills floating around that are useful. They probably will not get to passage this year, but the Best Practices Act we must push that hard. So please go to the website and have a little look. Thank you very much for asking that.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. We had another question. I think we've got a caller on the line. Thomas in Los Angeles has a question about animals killed for the plate. Thomas, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can indeed. What's your question, Thomas?
Okay. So this has to do with, by the way, great work for everybody, Tracy, Ingrid, and we've met many times before, and I'm in the Vanguard Society. Particularly, and particularly a animal defender, particularly with rabbits, and as they know well. But this specifically has to do with something I received that was really disturbing, as Ingrid mentioned earlier, talking about animals being used for entertainment and clothing and food. This is from Amazon Restaurants. Amazon Restaurants is a new division of Amazon. It's very successful, and they do a good job in terms of delivering food to people who order and whatnot. So they do a good service. But they sent out something called an Amazon Restaurants newsletter, which I received on January 6th of this year. And the subject line was 5 food trends we predict for 2017. And one of the first few words of it said, quote, thinking ahead to all of the wonderful things we'll be filling our bellies with in 2017. And then it goes through a 5-paragraph discussion, and kind of very light and airy is the tone of it all. But in paragraph 3, which is entitled Wild Game Replaces Beef, it says, quote, this is just one sentence here, or 2 sentences, quote, we predict a spike in restaurants featuring wild game proteins like rabbit and venison. Specifically, we see more and more chefs cooking these meats over an open flame. We saw grill-centric spots open all across the country, from Ciudad and Tarsan, Jane in Seattle, to Gwen in L.A., and we know there'll be more, end quote. So the reason I'm taking the time to have my voice heard on this is obviously it disturbs me when we see it being advocated out there in a kind of a light, airy way, the increase in use of rabbits, for me particularly, it disturbs me, and venison and any other animals. And they're doing it under the guise of, hey, people are eating less red meat or beef, and so there's an increase in venison. So my whole point here is that I'd really like for PETA to set up an action alert. These are the things I do all the time in terms of my response, where we can just send a message. It doesn't have to be superly aggressive, but certainly send a message to Amazon Restaurants and Amazon generally that we don't want them advocating for that.
We've got so many people on the line. I've got that entirely. I'm fascinated by it, disgusted by it. Would love to see it. If you could possibly email it to us, that would be good, or we'll find it online. There are these desperate moves afoot as people turn away from beef to try to fill the plate with something else. The way it usually doesn't work, and we saw that when we campaigned against Whole Foods. They introduced rabbit, and they got all sorts of flack, with people filling grocery carts with non-perishable goods and putting a bunny message on top and just dumping them in the aisles, as well as people just writing to them, and because meetings didn't work. And the thing that I'm saying this about is because Whole Foods said they would continue to sell rabbits unless it didn't sell, and it didn't sell. In the end, there was no profit in it for them, and they bailed because all they had was demonstrators. We may not do an action alert. We may do something else. We will certainly get to Amazon, and we urge everybody, whenever you see anything like that at all, make sure that your voice is heard. If you subscribe to Amazon, maybe you're on Amazon Smile, which gives a percentage of its proceeds, some minuscule amount, but it's useful, back to PETA or other charities. You can complain. If you're you're an Amazon Prime member, you can complain, and that's business. So yes, we will do something about it, I promise, but everybody needs to weigh in and get friends and coworkers and everybody else to weigh in when they see anything offensive like that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and thank you for being a Vanguard member.
Thank you, Ingrid. And Thomas was the last question, so I think we're going to have to wrap up after this, Ingrid.
Oh, well, that's just unfortunate because we have lots and lots of people on the line. I do want to thank everybody who has already submitted questions, and I am sorry if we didn't have time to get to your question. You know the routine. Please know that somebody will be in touch with you during the next few days, so hang tight. We will get to you, fear not. If you haven't had a chance to ask your question, but you would still like to, please do so now. And also don't forget, let us know any suggestions you have for actions that you're planning to do and for future town hall topics. I still encourage you to stay on the line now. Tell us how you'll be helping animals in 2017. What we'd like to do is record your goals, and we may share your message with your fellow PETA members in an email or online. We will just use your first name and your state so that will inspire others. But thank you for your support of our work. We simply can't achieve animal rights without you. We need everybody. So thank you, and good evening to you all.
This concludes tonight's PETA Town Hall. Thank you very much, everybody.